Copy has been posted. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
We got a first from Vice President Plunkett.
Second.
Oh, I heard two there. I think that was Councilor Burke. Yes? Yes. Yes. Okay. Very good. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The memoranda of the March 1st, 2021 regular town council meeting is approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, we have an approval of the memorandum of the March 1st, 2021 executive meeting. Copy has been posted for that. Any questions, councilors? I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second from Vice President Plunkett. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The memoranda of the March 1st, 2021 executive town council meeting is approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, we've got requests to speak. I got a quick little statement I'm just going to read here just so we know some rules here. So I want to thank you all certainly for attending this meeting this morning. We have noted on the agenda here that we'll not be taking any comment on agenda 7A. As you may recall or be aware, the mayor has asked publicly to this town council to consider giving her the authority to discharge a department head, which is required by the town's reorganization resolution 2014-11. The town council members have heard from many individuals during the process, and we certainly appreciate the input from each of those individuals. We've received well over 100 emails and phone calls on this matter in support of Chief Van Gorder. And I thank each person who took the time to contact us. That said, we're asking for no public comment on the discharge of the department head, and that's upon recommendation of our legal counsel. This is not to suppress anyone's opinion or right to speak, I should say. However, given that our decision is a HR matter, human resources matter, is our intent to treat it as such and not allow public debate of the individual serving in that position. So I appreciate your support in that matter. We do value the input that's been provided, and so thank you for that. With that, you're certainly welcome to speak on any other matter. Amy, do we have any requests to speak, either virtually or?
We haven't received any other ones in person. Joe, do we have any raised hands?
We've got one online. Very good. You can promote that individual. We're good to go. If you've been promoted, if you can give your name and address for the record and have 3 minutes. Joe, is Mr. Triscari? Mr. Triscari, the floor is yours. Is it us or him? Do we want to come back to that, Joe? All right, Mr. Triscari, we're gonna move on, but we will come back to request to speak. So you've got a chance. Maybe we'll do it after the first agenda items. You've got a chance to speak today. We have no old business today. So we've got new business. First up is a consideration of approval for mayor to discharge department head pursuant to resolution 2014-11 ZR2A24. Yes?
You want to do an administration update? Do we have any?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I did skip that.
Yep.
I don't believe we have an administration update.
Okay.
Thanks, Amy. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you for keeping me honest. So back to new business, which is the consideration here. Real quick, I just sort of wanted to give a little bit of background here, just so everyone here, everyone online has an understanding here. There's been a little bit of confusion, I think, in the public as to what is happening relative to this agenda item. So just a little bit of backstory here, bear with me. So within our reorganization document, resolution 2014-11, which you can find on the town's website if you're curious, in the mayor and administration section, ZR2A24 states that, quote, the mayor must have the approval of a majority of the town council before the executive may discharge a department head, with the exception of the superintendent of Parks and Recreation, which requires the approval of the Board of Parks and Recreation under IC 36-10-3, end quote. So a chief of the fire department and a chief of the police department is by nature of those roles a department head for the fire department and the police department respectively. Therefore, the removal of the chief of either department requires a majority of the town council to vote to give the mayor the authority to demote a chief from his or her position. Because the position of chief is not a merit position, discharge in this decision does not equate to termination. Any further demotion or change in employment status, including termination, must abide by the merit employment statutory requirements for members of the fire and police departments. Because the town's reorganization requires the town council vote to give the mayor the authority or not give her the authority to discharge a department head, the mayor has publicly requested, and we have privately discussed, the mayor's interest in the town voting on this matter. Council has met with the mayor and her staff to discuss her interest and concerns in demoting the chief from his position as chief within the department. The council has also met with the department head in question, as well as members of his department, to get a better picture of what is happening within the department. Further, the council has met with 3 executive sessions to discuss this matter. This is a vote the town council does not take lightly and has been spending a significant amount of time researching and deliberating on this matter. Councilors, I know we have all spent a lot of time on this subject, both as a group and individually. Much like the public speaking section, and out of respect for the parties involved, I would prefer we not have a public dialogue and just vote on this matter. I will pause a moment in case you disagree with this approach and have a statement to make. Okay, well, as such, are there any motions on this agenda item?
I'll make a motion to deny the mayor's request for discharge of the department head.
We have a motion from Councilor Traylor to deny, a second from Councilor Plunkett. Heather, really quick, can you just confirm what councilors are voting on with a yay or nay decision so that they're making the decision that they want to make?
Yes, so right now we have a motion to deny allowing the mayor to discharge the chief of the fire department who serves as the department head for the fire department from his position as chief. So if you vote in favor of this motion, you are voting to retain Chief Van Gorder in his role as chief of the department.
Councilors, any questions on those instructions? I want to do a roll call vote just so each person has a chance to vote. Amy, can you do a roll call vote on
Sure.
this matter?
President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Plunkett,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Melton,
Yes.
Councilor Traylor,
Yes.
Very good. The motion to deny the request passes with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Is sort of a quick finale here. I think speaking for all of us, we appreciate the time that parties have spent on this matter, including members of the public. I know how seriously my fellow councilors and myself as well have taken this issue, so I want to thank them for being so engaged in this process. I also want to thank the professionalism of Mayor Styron and her administration in providing updates and information and answers to us. And certainly I want to thank all the members of ZFD who participated in this process. I think during this process, it became apparent that there are some issues that need to be addressed within our fire department, as there are in really any type of large organization. I was certainly relieved in conversations that I had with firefighters. None of these issues were related to their own safety or safety of the public, but there were issues nonetheless. None of these issues seemed insurmountable, which is a good thing, but they need to be documented and I also think addressed with some urgency. I do have, and I think speaking for this council, we do have full confidence in the mayor, town's HR department, Chief Van Gorder, that these challenges can be overcome for the betterment of the community. Council is certainly willing to assist to ensure that Zionsville remains the safe place that it is today. That concludes that agenda item. I know that many of you were probably here for that agenda item, so I'm going to take just a 1-minute recess. If you would like to leave, you're welcome to. If you want to stick around for an exciting town council session, you're welcome to do that too, but I won't be insulted if you choose not to. So I'll just break for 1 minute here. We'll try to get the request to speak working again. Thank you. speak for Mr. Triscari?
Can you hear me?
I see his name. Craig, I think you are live, and you can give your name and address. The floor is yours.
Thank you. There were some technical issues, I guess. My name is Craig Triscari, 3270 Paddock Road. As of March 2021, Van Trust still has failed to run the 8-inch water line into Saratoga after December 2018, rezoning passing requiring Van Trust to run the line when they set up the water. The current landscapes on the berm facing Saratoga is still currently incorrect, with the wrong trees and tree size promised by Van Trust in the public hearing. As your home county tax assessment letters are being prepared to be sent out by the county this year, people will receive their assessments in the mail. A reminder that you as a taxpayer have the power to set an appointment and make your case of why you should be paying less on your assessment, paying less taxes to the town of Zionsville, even after some of the increases that have gone on. Like so many local governments in the U.S., our political servants have forgotten they are an extension of the people's will. They serve an extension of their own will. This board and the Zionsville board are mostly made up of conservative views, but in the town of Zionsville, they have chosen to reject the freedom of choice in schools in the town of Zionsville. It is time this board provides leadership with the education board to ensure Zionsville residents that are being governed by Zionsville community decisions have at a minimum the right to attend any school they choose at a 6th to 12th grade level. Freedom of choice in schools place the burden on the parents to transport their child to the school of choice in their town. This community needs to meet that value as they have devastated the Southern Perry Township homes, transitioning this community to a more transient homestead versus a family-based community. Understanding this board does not have the power to change that, they do have the leadership responsibility to support the efforts in a way it would matter. If you plan to buy a home within Zionsville address, be very cautious. The leadership doesn't abide by comprehensive plans, nor do they care about your property value. The town council team has provided to date zero value added to the greater rural Zionsville community to date, and rural equity means little to this leadership. As they continue to damage the rural community with higher taxes, higher polluting environmentally unsound industrial site, uncontrolled zoning, which are showing to be family-friendly community killing plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Triscari. Appreciate you joining us today. We'll jump back to new business here. We're on business item B. This is a consideration of an appointment to the Pathways Committee. Counselors, just so you know, Amy Lacey actually pointed out to us that we had an open appointment in the Pathway Committee due to a resignation. So I appreciate that, Amy, for making that note. We looked through folks that had expressed interest in that committee, and Emily Makinson certainly came to the top. She's got an impressive background, and I think would be an excellent addition to the Pathway Committee. That is a committee that I think is excited to have some new membership and continue the good work that they're doing. So with that, unless there are any questions on her, I would make a motion to approve this consideration of Ms. Makinson for the Pathway Committee.
Second.
Second from Councillor Melton. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, the appointment is approved with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, we've got a consideration of an additional appropriation resolution. This actually includes 4 different projects: 800 East and Oak Street Roundabout, the Heritage Trail Park. This just says, I guess it's 5. It says IT, Town Hall reconfiguration, and wastewater capacity study. This is a public hearing, so we will open the hearing at some point during this discussion. This is resolution number 2021-05. Ms. Savard, good to see you in person.
Good morning, Council President and members of the council. Today we have an additional appropriation that has been public noticed, and this item will be for your consideration today as well. IT, is there a specific button to push to make it go up? On the screen? Or if you can just pull up. Yeah. Nope. As Councilor Garrett mentioned, there are multiple appropriations for consideration on this item, and these can be voted on individually. The first one that we have is for the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, and the request is $1.2 million for the new right-of-way necessary for the construction of the roundabout at 800 East and Oak Street. And just to give you some more perspective on this, I'm going to show you some financial information that is associated.
And Tammy, real quick.
Yes.
Counselors, I think it makes sense to vote individually. Would you prefer, Ms. Savard, go through all 5 of these at once, or do you want to go through them one vote, then go to the next one? Is there any preference? Are there any
I
recommendations?
might recommend we do them individually after the presentation on each one, just for public transparency, so the public can more easily follow along.
So do presentation on the
Yes.
first one, vote
Yep.
on it, then go to, the okay.
That would be
Is
my
that okay,
preference.
Tammy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
So on the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, as you can imagine, it is for roads and streets and also for stormwater expenses. And there is also a separate sub-fund that is a restricted fund that can also be used for road and street purposes that is not included, that has a cash balance of $809,000. So if you look at the cash balance, you can see the trend starting from 2017 to estimated at the end of 2021. And the estimated cash balance in 2021 does include this additional appropriation request of $1.2 million. So we can have an estimate. It shows 2021 is $5 million of revenue coming into this fund that does not include the sub-fund of the restricted fund. And then we show with the $1.2 million, that's that light blue in the chart. Then we have a budget for 2021, $5.6 million. So in this $5.6 million total for the fund, you have approved expenses of $4.4 million. That was done during the budget season in October when that was passed. And that includes personnel, operating, capital, including for public works, stormwater, street operations. And then again, this $1.2 million is included in that $5.6 million and in everything that you see here. And that would be for the roundabout. Can I ask any questions at this time on this particular item?
I think you answered it, Tammy, but just to clarify, even though it is a capital project from an accounting perspective, it is expensed in the entirety of the year, correct? It's not like it's cashed out and then it's amortized or depreciated over a period of time, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And my understanding, we've been saving for this project for a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, this was a planned project.
Got it. Councilors, any other questions on this? Heather, I may open the public meeting now before we vote on anything. So yeah, this is a public hearing. I have proof of publication. If there's anyone that would like to speak on any of these 5 additional appropriations today, you're welcome to come up and speak on those. So I will open the public hearing. You don't have to pre-register. All right, I don't see any movement. I'll close that public hearing. Councilors, we are then on the first capital outlay for the motor vehicle fund for the roundabout. If there are no other questions, are there any motions on this? I'd move to adopt. We got a first from Councilor Burke. I'll second that. President Garrett. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Very good. The motor vehicle highway fund for the roundabout at 800 East and Oak Street is approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Tammy, next one, please.
Yes. So the Parks and Recreation Operational Fund request has $475,000 of a request. It has a current cash balance of $3.2 million. And the purpose of the additional appropriation is to complete the phase 2 construction of Heritage Trail Park. Again, looking at the finances for this is cash balance that is for the capital expenses of the Parks Department. And we did not have anything budgeted out of this. This is the earmarked funds. And there's a request for, So I apologize. Let me take a step back. So in the budget process, we decided to collapse the fund of the parks operating into the general fund. And so that transfer was on the budget forms of $2.5 million. There's a current cash balance that we ended 2020 with of $3.2 million. And so that's why we're doing the additional appropriation out of these earmarked funds so that we get that balance down. And it is, again, $475,000 that is of actual expense. The rest is just earmarked funds.
So
Yes.
Just to be clear, there's still $6 million total here.
3 million. So 3.2 is the cash balance. There's 0 coming into this earmarked fund. And then coming out of it would be $2.5 million of just transfer. So that's just that cash balance moving on the right-hand side, that 3 million. And then that includes the $475,000. So the $475,000 is the only true expense coming out of these earmarked funds right now. This is pure cash balance that is earmarked for capital projects.
We ended up doing that with both parks and fire, if I
Correct.
remember correct. So how much was in the parks when we earmarked it? Was it that 3.2?
It would be whatever the balance was at the end of 2020, which is $3.2 million, correct?
Got it. And it's and this is coming out of that balance, the remaining 2.8. Is that, it looked like it's going into the general fund, but that earmark passes through it with it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That makes sense. Does everyone understand that? I don't wanna-
So the full 3.2 million is for the capital expenses. Yes.
Tammy, why did we not move this earlier? Why did this get kind of this fund balance that exists? This is Brad, by the way. I mean, obviously now we're trying to move it over so you can spend it, but why did we not do that previously? We were not allowed
we
to.
will do that during 2021. So that is the approved transfer amount for 2021. For clarity's sake, like this presentation, it's easier to show it all in one. I believe there will be one more additional appropriation request from this fund. And so after that request is complete and the balance is below that 2.5 million, then we will move it over.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm assuming the Parks Board is in favor of this.
Yes,
project?
absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Has been approved.
Yep. I guess I asked a question knowing the answer because I did also talk to the Parks Board president and he reconfirmed that, but I just want to make sure that that was sort of in the public record that they were supportive of this. Councilors, any other questions on this request?
Motion to approve.
First from Councilor Choi to approve the money.
Second.
Second from Councilor Culp. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Very good. The Parks and Recreation Fund has been approved for $475,000, or not the fund, but the appropriation, I should say, for the phase 2 construction of Heritage Trail Park. Which one would you like to go to next?
We'll start with, we'll just go in order.
Okay.
The Cumulative Capital Improvement Fund for request for $20,000. And this has a cash balance of $170,000. And the purpose of the additional appropriation is for the wiring and computer networks at Town Hall. This would be for the reconfiguration. And just to look at some of the, again, the information on the Cumulative Capital Improvement Fund. This has not been used in several years, and you can see that cash balance has been increasing. And so at the end of 2021, even with this expenditure of $20,000, we are expected to grow our cash balance in 2021. As you can see, we have 52,000 coming in and 20,000 is the request to go out.
Tammy, this is going to be a question that's both this request and the next request. I know I'm going to phrase this. There was some discussion because there was some uncertainty if this would pass or not, because while we have the cash fund balances, it also contributes to sort of the negative budget of the town, if you will. I was sort of under the impression that if these didn't pass, it would still be able to get done. It just might be a little more effort. Is that a true statement, or does not passing these prevent the town hall reconfiguration from happening?
So my understanding is that there are areas, like furniture being one of them, that could be reduced. And, we could make it work, right? Without it, it wouldn't necessarily be ideal with the labor and things that if we had to have a temporary place that people are sitting and things like that, and then have to come in and then redo it. So there are some efficiencies and things like that that would occur if that was delayed.
Is there anything, I saw your note about potential CARES money coming, and that was a
Yes.
really good thing. With these two, and I'll even add the wastewater capacity study that seemed more appropriate. Do any of those potentially qualify for that money?
So in reading the text of the bill at the national level, we have not gotten any direction from the state. And even in the CARES money that we got in 2020, they changed the rules in the middle of it on the requirements of us spending it. So I don't believe that we can count on that money being specific for any of these projects. It does fall within the time frame of allowable spend right now, between now and some later point, for being able to utilize that money. But if it's not used for this project, we could reallocate expenses that were budgeted for this project and things like that.
Counselors, any questions on the IT piece?
And I think from my perspective, I mean, I look at, my constituents and the folks that talk to me about the renovation of the town hall and fees for that matter, but I know that's another discussion. Tammy, you and I exchanged emails, I think it was on the 25th, that just talked about the project basically would still go through regardless of whether or not this money was approved. And I guess my question is, do we know where that money would come from? I'm in full disclosure to other counselors, I'm less inclined to approve either one of these for town hall renovation if the money's already, if the project's going to go through regardless and we don't necessarily need to approve it. I mean, that's where I'm at. So
I can address that. So there is a town hall improvement fund that was created from the bond proceeds on this building. If you'll recall from the previous presentation that Lance did, that the top floor was not built out. And so part of the town hall improvement fund's purpose is to help to build that out when that time came, because it was known that town hall was not complete at that point. Included in the request for additional appropriation and for the town hall is also other needs that have not been met at town hall. There are no whiteboards here, for example, so that furniture quote includes whiteboards for several offices in order for town staff to be able to function better. There are, with the reconfiguration in the Municipal Action Center, then there are places for the planners to be able to put out their plans and go over it. So working spaces and conference areas and things like that, that would not be existing today. So with the reconfiguration, the construction piece of it for the security of the employees, having one door in and things like that, those are the necessary changes that we could accomplish with the Town Hall Improvement Fund. So the actual shell of everything that will happen, those are what we have prioritized that needs to happen for the employees here and for the community that is coming in and interacting with our staff based on that new model. And the furniture would be the piece. We, even in the original plan that was presented, we had the existing furniture used as much as possible. But with the new municipal action center, that changes kind of the structure and the way that we do business. And I think I mentioned to several of the counselors before about how the new financial system kind of fits in with this as well, because right now only my staff has access to it, but going forward, it would be forward-facing staff for interacting with the public, but access the invoicing and things like that, and to be able to handle that. So this is a enhancement to the community, and that's why we're requesting council to approve the full package, including the needs of the staff.
Tammy, what's the total amount of the renovation? 'Cause
I would
The
have
ask
to-
here is 118K, but I know that there's other sources of funds for this. Do you know that off the top of your head?
I would have to pull it up. I want to say, do you remember me? Yeah,
It's just a ballpark is fine too. Like,
300 or 400.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will tell you, this has been a weird one, sort of a roller coaster emotion for me, because when I heard that at first, I was a little aghast. And then, because the building is so new, but then I know Amy and Lance and Mayor Styron took me on a tour, and I understand the vision. I think my only hesitation, quite honestly, is sort of when I heard that, kind of like what Councilor Vice President Plunkett said, a lot of this could get done without this money. Does it make sense to sort of get done what needs to be done from a building standpoint? And then if there's additional things that we need, furniture, whiteboarding, let's put that into the next year's budget, because there's less of a time constraint versus taking advantage of stuff right now. So that's kind of where my head is at, where if it can still get done, the bones can still get done with the current money and doesn't put us sort of further in the hole, if you will. I think overall the project makes sense. I think it is a benefit of the community. I'm hesitant as we keep approving things. Each one we approve means the balanced budget is further in the hole. And I understand why we're doing some of these things, we save for them, but that's just my take on this personally.
And I have not a question, more of a statement that I'll be voting no on both of these. For the only reason is I am 100% for the additions. So, building out the upstairs to accommodate Department of Public Works, that makes space for the police department over across the street. I'm all for that. I'm not, I can't get on board with renovating this portion of the building that is already done and was just recently built. I understand that it may not be ideal to the current administration's vision, but I also don't want to set the precedent that every new administration will get to come in and renovate the entire building. So just again, to be clear, additional space, I'm all for the build out. I just can't get on board with renovating space that's only recently been built.
And it sounds like that can be done with the town hall
Well,
renovation fund.
That's my thought is if these two don't pass, maybe it'll put the pressure on the administration to only do the additional space, not tear out finished work that's already completed.
I agree with you on your sentiments of where you are on this, because I don't see the point of changing out what happened just 3 years ago. I don't agree with that, but my understanding to Vice President Plunkett's comment is that that's going to happen anyway, and this is for something completely for furniture and those kind of
And
things.
also contingency.
So that's where I'm having trouble wrapping my head around this, is whether I vote for this or not. That part that I disagree with is still going to happen.
But I think it puts pressure. The only thing that I can do at this point is put pressure on to not renovate a recently completed project. And the only power within this council to do that is to deny additional funding that, in my mind, if you take out that 118,000, that's probably approximately what it would cost to renovate this area over here. So I'm putting it on public record that I'm going to vote to deny these two in hopes that it will encourage the administration to apply the funds that they do have towards the additional space, not renovating existing space.
I think it's also important to note that we passed a budget that had a $20,799 margin. $20,000 on a $30 million budget. And the reason that was passed was because we asked for these to be pulled out for this very reason, to be able to have intelligent, open discussion and dialogue about what really needs to happen. I've not had one constituent of mine call me and say, I'm really excited to see what's going on with the town hall renovation. I've had a lot of them email me and call me and ask me what's going on with that and why is it happening. I have a really hard time getting behind it, especially knowing that's going to be done regardless. I mean, if it's going to be done regardless, I don't particularly want my name on additional renovations of that.
Tammy, it's Brad, can I ask you a question? If that is in fact the case, and you're prepared to move forward with this construction and build out those parts and then not have this extra allocation for furniture and that type of thing, it seems to me that now we've made this construction, you've made the costs, and you're not able to execute because there's no furniture in there for folks to actually move over here. Would that, so if that's the case, if you've built it out, but you don't have the furniture to move folks in, does that not stall the process that you're trying to accomplish of bringing people into the office?
From my understanding is that we would be able to make it work with pulling furniture from places to make the workspaces that we need.
At least for now, until you could come back. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, maybe until now, until it makes sense to do it later, right? I mean, that's the point. Like, we don't even know how much of this extra, CARES Act money can or can't be used for, in the email it said it could be used for, different types of infrastructure and broadband and stuff like that. Like, maybe that takes care of it later. I just think that, again, this vote right here, without the other two included, puts us $100,000 in the hole.
So on the CARES Act money, usually how that works is if you have an eligible expenditure, then we would just submit the invoices. So in the instance of the networking, if it was eligible, we would have that expense and then we would submit it for reimbursement, is generally how that works. So that could still be a reimbursable expense, to your point, and then we would handle that. One of the other considerations on why the timing of this project is so important is because Town Hall is currently closed. And people are still being socially distanced, and with the addition of the new permitting software and things like that, people can work more remotely with the town. And so that aspect of it makes it important to do that now. We can save money by having that work condensed and then getting it done quicker with the building closed.
Yeah,
But it should be open.
I think where I'm at is, I'm not denying that now would be a good time to do it if you were going to do it. Where I'm at is the money's not needed to do the job. So if it's not needed, then I don't know why we would approve it. Again, we deny this, it's still going forward. It's still going to happen.
Just with used furniture.
Just with, yeah, I mean.
Right. Councilors, any other questions on this?
Yeah, Tammy, how does this impact your department with these additional appropriations?
As far as what?
Well, what's your ROI on this? What's it going to impact you by doing these additions?
So the additional appropriation, as far as the processes and operations of?
Yeah,
Yes.
like you personally, yeah. How's it improve your life if we approve these things?
Absolutely. So again, the premise is when someone walks in from the community that they know exactly where to go. So if you think about any other, you walk into the hospital and they have that desk there that is for customer service, and that person is able to then direct them. Well, the way that our new systems will work is that front person would be able to handle the needs of most of the requests that are coming into that office. Currently, when you walk into the building, there's the front door there's another door and another door. And people stand out in the hallway and they say, where am I supposed to go? So one of our staff, right now the doors are locked, would, have to get up and then help that person and then help them find another door in order to go in. So the idea is to have that one entrance so that it's clear that that person can just go up to the counter and then not only just go to the counter to get directed, but to actually be served right there at that desk. So again, right now, my staff is the only one entering the receipts. There's stuff going back and forth between the departments, sliding under the door and that kind of thing. Having the new setup will put our offices in the back and then have the forward facing people be in the front to be able to have that face-to-face interaction. There's also a conference room that is close to public assistance, which is also under my department. And so again, having that private space, right now, we have a shared area where a public assistance administrator, along with our HR department, are in a shared space having confidential, potentially conversations about income and about personal matters in that shared space. In the new, with the new changes, HR will move upstairs and have a dedicated space to be able to have those confidential conversations. In the new model, the public assistance person would also have their own office with a door that closes to have those confidential conversations. So it's more than just the numbers and things like that. It truly is how the operations of the employees are going to be affected going forward.
Tammy, if that was sort of some of the things we learned in the tour, which is very helpful. If we don't pass this, my understanding is everything you described there still happens.
Yes,
Right.
that could still happen. Yes.
Yes.
It would
okay.
just be the additional time again. So
Right.
imagine hooking up all the computers and the networking and things like that, and then having to redo it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. Counselors, any motions on this?
Make a motion to deny the capital, what is it? Cumulative Capital Improvement Fund additional appropriation for $20,000.
Second.
First from Councilor Trailer, second from Vice President Plunkett. Amy, I don't quite know how this will go, so can we do a roll call vote on this? Again, if you are voting yes, you are voting to agree with Councilor Trailer's motion to deny the $20,000 request for the additional appropriation.
We're just voting on that one.
Just voting on that, just that single line item. That's correct, Councilor Choi.
Okay, President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Plunkett,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
No.
Councilor Culp,
No.
Councilor Melton,
No.
and Councilor Trailer.
Yes.
Okay, motion to deny the $20,000 appropriation passes with a vote of 4 in favor, 3 opposed. Next up, we've got very similar. It's the Cumulative Capital Development Fund. This is for $98,000 related to the additional appropriation for town hall reconfiguration. I feel we've talked about it, but Tammy, is there anything else you'd like to add to that, or councilors, any questions you have on this piece? If not, are there any motions on this?
Make a motion to deny the Cumulative Capital Development Fund additional appropriation for $98,000.
A motion to deny from Councilor Trailer,
Second.
second from Vice President Plunkett. I imagine I know how this will go, but we'll do it anyways. Amy, can you do a roll call vote on that?
Yeah,
Again, if you're voting yes, you're voting to deny. If you're voting no, you're against that request.
Okay, President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Plunkett,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
No.
Councilor Choi,
No.
Councilor Culp,
No.
Councilor Melton,
No.
and Councilor Trailer.
Yes.
What was that vote out there, Amy?
I have
4-3.
four no's, 3 yeses.
Okay, so there were 4 no's. Okay, so that motion fails.
Can I ask just for
4-3.
clarification, what the difference is from a council perspective between those two?
Well,
I mean, maybe I'm missing something.
I was surprised that we had a different outcome for that one, but if there's another motion there,
I just wanted to take a minute to talk about it. So in the first one, we kind of talked through that this could all happen. It was $20,000. And in fact, some of the furniture.
that was just for wiring, Brad.
Yeah, that was not,
That was just the IT
yeah, I
stuff.
mean, it's the same thing.
The first one was just for wiring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This one is for furniture.
yes.
I should have clarified that ahead of
I
time.
think everybody else got it.
Do you
Yeah.
want to do it again?
We can, well, certainly we can, there are no motions on the table, so
You have to do a new motion.
yeah, we can do a new motion. I can't call a vote on the same motion, but if there's another motion, we can do that.
So I would duplicate the previous motion to deny this one.
Second.
Okay, so Councilor Burke has voted to deny the appropriation. That was second for Vice President Plunkett. Again, if you were voting yes, you were voting to deny. Amy,
Okay. Let's try this again. Okay, President Garrett,
yes.
Vice President Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Burke,
Yes.
Counselor Choi,
No.
Counselor Culp,
No.
Counselor Melton,
No.
and Counselor Trailer.
Yes.
Okay, so the additional appropriation for $98,000 from the Cumulative Capital Development Fund has been denied by a vote of 4 in favor of the denial, 3 against. Last, we've got the wastewater capacity study, Tammy.
So the wastewater availability fund is a separate fund for those expenses, and an additional appropriation of $260,000 is being requested to conduct a capacity study of the wastewater collection system and plant. So as you can see that we have estimated revenues of 1.4 million, and then there are $1 million of expenses, including this $260,000.
Tammy, how long do you, I understand the need for this, right? And I guess I'm always sort of balanced between the needs and, you know, even though there's a fund surplus here, it goes again against the sort of budget, overall budget. Any idea when we'll have a better sense of CARES money? I'm much more supportive of this if the CARES money suddenly we know, hey, this will pay for it, and therefore, you know, the revenue effectively coming in, and it's now more sort of a budget neutral thing versus a budget negative thing. And also, I guess a follow-up question, maybe this is more for Mr. Lance, but if you're able to answer it, great. Does waiting on that clarification have any negative impact to the community? I mean, I know that we want to figure it out as quickly as possible, but if we wait a month, is it really going to be that detrimental?
So from my understanding, once they set the start date and the end dates for the funding, that any of the requests, we don't have to go ask for that. We can spend the money and then submit for reimbursement. So there, even if we spent it today or we spent it next year, if it's within that time frame and it's an eligible expense, we will get the funding eligibility for that. So there isn't a reason for the CARES Act to wait on these items, because if it's eligible, we will submit for it and then we would get reimbursed.
But we don't know if it's eligible, right? We think it
Correct.
probably is. And I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out is, like, do you have it just came out, right? And it's a good amount of money potentially for our community, which is outstanding. It would be more helpful for me to understand with more certainty. And I know it's kind of a bit of a shell game, because if it's not eligible, something else might be eligible, right? And you sort of shift it
Absolutely.
around, but to even get a sense of the money's coming in, we know we're going to get, and also which budgets it's going to apply to as well, right? Because again, it all starts going towards this idea of a balanced budget that I'm very much in favor of, and I think council voted on, sort of fought hard for this first budget that came out. So I guess I'm asking if this appropriation isn't voted on or is continued or is denied, will we have a better sense in a month or a better sense in 6 months? And I know we don't know, but is there any sort of, I might even ask that of Heather.
I do want to make a clarification on this wastewater availability fund specifically, that this fund was not included when we were looking at those balanced budget numbers. So this was a non-DLGF fund. It is strictly the revenue source is from the wastewater connection fees with new construction. So this is truly, and if you look at these numbers, we're receiving 1.4 million and we're spending 1. So this is a balanced budget. This was not
Got it.
included in the DLGF, the property tax related funds. So this one I would look at separately and differently, and it is balanced.
Got it.
And if you look at the cash balance,
Yes.
and you look at that trending, we have been increasing, and you can see that the capital expenditures, they vary from year to year. So you might, do something with a lift station one year, but not have a capital need the next year. And so that is expected to fluctuate, but even with this expenditure, we are still expected to grow our cash balance in this fund.
Got it. So that's very helpful. That's a good clarification. Thank you. Because in my mind, this was adding 260 grand to the negative, but it's not.
It is
So,
not.
okay, then I still love it to be reimbursed, but that makes it a
Correct.
different
Yes.
conversation. So thank you for clarifying that.
And this is one of the biggest questions we've had for years is what is our sewer capacity? And
Yes.
I think it needs to be, this is absolutely crucial.
Agreed. Okay, that's good to know. Any other questions, counselors?
Motion to approve.
Got a first from Counselor Choi.
Second.
Second from Counselor Melton. Amy, just in case, do you want to roll call this one as well?
Sure. President Garrett,
And again, just to sort of make sure everyone knows, a yes now is approval, when a yes used to be a denial. So just yes,
okay, President Garrett,
yes.
okay, Vice President Milton. I'm sorry, Vice President.
Oh, there's a coup.
Congratulations.
Vice President Plunkett.
Yes.
Okay. Counselor Burke,
Yes.
Counselor Choi,
Yes.
Counselor Culp,
Yes.
Counselor Melton,
Yes.
Counselor Trailer.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. So the wastewater availability fund, additional appropriation request of $260,000 is approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Could
Thanks for answering all those questions, Tina.
I ask a question before we move on?
Sure, please.
I don't, and this is really to Heather, I think, how we will sign the additional appropriation document.
Yeah, so we may
Resolution.
want to just do, I can help you on this too,
Okay.
Amy, is, well, we have it prepared for today, right? So we
Right.
probably need, maybe before we end, to just Xerox the roll call page, and then we'll just do a signature for each one,
Okay,
just so for our public record. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And
Well-
there is a place on the additional appropriation where it says amount requested, amount approved. And so on those amount approved, then that's where you would mark out the requested and put the approved amounts.
Okay.
So it should be handled on that ordinance.
I guess the other option, Amy. Yeah, I think it's.
I think just copying it.
Roll call.
We've got to change the roll call to Vice President Melton now anyways, so.
That's a good point.
Next up, we've got a consideration of a resolution to proceed with land acquisition of parcels for public purpose. This is resolution 2021-06. Joe, I believe Mr. Lance is virtually with us.
Yes, I'm
Oh,
good. I'm
there he
here.
is.
Can you see me?
Can you turn him up just slightly? All right, Lance, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Pursuant to state statute, anytime the town intends to acquire real property from a private property individual in excess of $25,000, the fiscal body must adopt a resolution with their intent to purchase. So that's what's before you today. This is for the next roundabout, which is under design, as Ms. Havard said, at 800 and Oak Street. And we've identified these 5 parcels as likely to be in excess of that $25,000. So what you have before you is this resolution authorizing these purchases so that we can tender offers to these individuals.
That makes sense, and that is the same roundabout we just approved the appropriation for, correct, Lance?
That is correct.
Yeah. Councilors, any questions for Mr. Lance on this? If
Motion
not,
to approve.
we've got a first, Councilor Choi, second for Vice President Plunkett. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 2021-06 passes with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Thanks, Mr. Lance.
Thank you.
Tammy, you're back up again. Lance got the easy one there. We got a consideration of an ordinance setting the town of Zionsville, Indiana fee schedule amendment. Councilors, this is a first reading, so there will be a chance to have a second reading on this and make any changes between now and then. This is ordinance 2021-03. Tammy, I believe there's been some significant changes since the first presentation, so the floor is yours.
Great. And before I start, I would like to request that you suspend the rules and adopt tonight, since we have had this on several agendas. So I'd appreciate your consideration on that. But I will go over the changes and then hope to answer any of your questions, and then we can go from there. So the 2021 fee schedule, we initially brought before you in December, and we've made several changes after conversations. The intent of this fee schedule was to bring all of the fees together into one document, again, for the public transparency. And so if anyone had a question on what we were charging in 2021, we'd be able to reference this fee schedule and everything would be together on it. From the conversations and things like that, we have decided that some of those can reside with the individual boards. So for example, the parks we have pulled out of there, and because the statute gives the Parks Board the authority to set those fees. And so those have been removed from this fee schedule. And there have been no changes to the police department fees. A lot of those are statutory fees that are set by the state and are merely replicated here, again, for that ease of information from the public to the public. So you have the police department fees, and then the fire department, there were no changes to the fire prevention reports or CPR instruction. We have added hazmat and the EMS fees to our schedule. And that would allow the town at a later date, in order to charge these fees to the residents. They are currently being charged by the Zionsville Volunteer Fire Department. And so once the transition happens from the volunteer fire department over to the town, then we would have these fees on the book and allow that to happen. There are no changes to these fees from what is being charged currently. The hazmat is actually set by the state fire marshal. And so again, those are just merely replicated here. And then the EMS fees are currently what is being charged, which is lower than our community, surrounding communities. And then the meeting rooms, we have also made several changes to. So there is no charge now for nonprofit organizations or private citizens. Also no charge for the municipal, state, federal government, or the room sponsors. And then the cleaning fees were on the fee schedule before. This is currently in the documents that anyone that's reserving a room has to sign. And so these are not new fees. These are again being replicated from the current processes. And then we have the special events fees. Those were previously introduced. We do have a change. Instead of charging a per cone and per barricade cost to the organizations, we would only charge the cost of replacement if any of those were to go missing. So that was one change to this. And then another change to the special events was to add in the town sponsored events, to have that list on here so that it's clear that those are exempt.
One thing to add there, I got a text just a little bit ago from the deputy mayor asking that we consider adding the Night on the Bricks event as a town sponsored event. And I would be fully supportive of that as well. She indicated the chamber is intending to bring that back this year.
Great. And so that if there is a roll call vote tonight, then you could say as amended and then insert that line when a motion is done. Are there any questions at this time?
Some of these fees, Tammy, events we're paying anyways, but directly to like police and fire, correct? In other words,
Yes.
My understanding is, well, there's a lot of quote new fees for special events. It's really just more sort of formalizing fees for insurance protection for our personnel in town. Is that
Yes,
statement?
absolutely. So they would be on our payroll when they are doing these special events versus the current process, which is that they would be hired individually by those events as off-duty.
Got it. And I, a couple things. I appreciate all the dialogue on this. Counselors have had a lot of input. A lot of organizations have. I appreciate the administration's willingness to listen to that. I think this is a much better fee schedule. I also think putting the parks fees under the Parks Board makes a ton of sense because they're going to have a better sense of what is it they want to achieve, what programming that they want to do. We have a general sense of it, but I think they're going to have a much more detailed sense of that. And so I like that change as well. I think that makes sense. And certainly, as Councilor Traylor said, the Night of the Bricks, I like this whole concept of making sure that we aren't sort of using this as a tax on some of these events, some of the things the Lions put on, some of the things the Chamber put on. So I appreciate that change as well. I was not aware that we wanted to suspend the rules today, although I'm open to it depending on councilors' need to absorb this more or wanting to do that. So we can certainly get to that. Any questions for Tammy on what was presented or is in front of us here?
Should we have, so obviously the special event fees and I've struggled with fees from the beginning because it's similar to the town hall renovation. I haven't had one constituent say that they like the new fees increase. Well, I know we aren't increasing now, but my questions really kind of line up to this town sponsored event. Is that something that we should have an ordinance or a resolution or something that outlines specifically in separate? Who gets to decide that moving forward? Like if there's another one that comes through that we decide is a good one to have, who decides that? Who makes those decisions? Is it possible to be removed?
I will defer to Heather on this, but my thinking is because we have to vote on the fee schedule, if we had to amend the fee schedule, it would have to come through the council. So in other words, as we added Night of the Bricks, if there was a 7th event that came forward, that the fee schedule would just be amended. Does that make sense,
Yes,
Heather?
Yes, that's exactly right. So you would have to come back and amend the fee schedule, add an additional event.
Yeah. Any other comments? All right, well, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a
Do
second?
we need to make the motion?
Oh,
to
I'm sorry. I do need
amend?
to make, yes, that's a good point.
Well, and to amend also.
So yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the fee schedule with the amendment of adding the Night on the Bricks as an additional town-sponsored event to the 5 that exist today.
Second.
Could you second the entire motion, please, Moran? Not just say second. I'm just kidding. Get a second from Councilor Traylor. I'm just going to, well, we'll see how it does. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 6 in favor, 1 opposed. Tammy, if we suspend the rules, what's driving that request?
Yeah, absolutely. So the special events, as the weather's getting warmer, there are more requests for police and fire services. And so we want our police and fire department employees to be protected. And so by passing this ordinance, it would allow us to move forward with that.
Very good. That makes sense. Given the almost majority, I feel comfortable in making a motion to suspend the rules and have a second vote here. Is there a second on suspending the rules?
Second.
A second from Councilor Melton. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion to suspend the rules passes 6 in favor, 1 opposed. That would mean a final motion. So I will make a final motion to approve the ordinance setting the town of Zionsville fee schedule inclusive of the Night on the Bricks as a 6th town-supported event.
Second.
Got a second on this final motion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 6 in favor, 1 opposed. It was Councilor Culp who seconded that, just for the record. Very good. Thanks, Tammy. Appreciate it. Councilors, any other matters you'd like to discuss?
I was just going to ask Tammy, is there in the other matters, so obviously these are over, the CARES Act money that we have coming in, is there a possibility? So it sounds like we spend money on things that qualify for it, we submit for reimbursement, and then those funds then go back to their original account, correct? Original fund, I should say.
Yes.
Is there,
Trying to think. It gets a little bit complicated if it crosses years and things like that, but yes.
so I guess my question is there an opportunity as we look at what's going on over the next, until we get clarification on the funding and the spends, can we in turn use some of that money? The school obviously asked for CARES Act money and didn't get any.
Mhm.
Can we take some of the money maybe that we get reimbursed and give that to the schools?
Yes, so we would have the ability, once we have the funds, in order to additionally appropriate, that would be an action before council, and you could additionally appropriate, and then it could be for the use of the schools.
Okay.
Yes,
Great,
absolutely.
thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I think. let me double check.
You want to check that real quick, Heather? We're just making sure that suspension of the rules, if it can be 2/3 or a majority, I'm sorry, 2/3 or unanimous to suspend the rules.
Will take me a second, but
Yeah.
so we can keep going.
We'll keep going. We may come back to that, counselors, just keep that in mind. Any other matters? Okay, next we've got the approval of claims. Counselors, there's one claim I would like to pull out just for use of getting some additional research on it. Is the $480 for ISSUU. We just want to make sure that the way that it is being used doesn't get the town into any sort of issues. I don't have an issue with the claim itself, but we just want to do a little additional research on that. And so I would make a motion to, well, I won't make a motion yet. If there's any comments on claims. All right, well, then I would make a motion to approve the claims less the $480 for this ISSUU claim, just pending a little bit of further research. Second for Vice President Plunkett. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Claims are approved by 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Heather, you look ready.
It is. So Indiana Code 36.5-2-9.8 says that 2/3 of the elected members after unanimous, I guess, so he is right. So the motion to suspend has to be unanimous,
Got it.
but then 2/3 vote to pass it on the second reading. So if Counselor Plunkett would be amenable on the motion, I think what we would want to, you could change your vote and that's just for the suspension. You're not.
Yes.
Yeah, I would change my vote for the suspension.
Do we need to revote, Heather, or is
No,
his declaration that
yes.
he's okay to suspend the
Yeah,
rules?
I
All
think-
right. Well, thank you for that individual for pointing that out, and I appreciate your flexibility there, Jason.
Sorry, I
So,
didn't catch that. I should have, but
even though
it's
it's a
always a
vote,
little tricky of a
no
process.
on both of those. Very good. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second. So I heard Vice President Plunkett first. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The next regular town council meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 12th, 2021 at 7:00 p.m. Please note the shift in dates due to the spring break holiday will be held on site here at Town Hall Chambers, as also electronically via Zoom. Final notice will be posted in compliance with Indiana open door law. Thanks all.